And we are back. Welcome to my preview and predictions for this Thursday's Europa League quarter-final first legs. Our second of 3 videos this week. If you missed yesterday's video, you can check that out. It was covering all of tonight and tomorrow night's Champions League quarter-finals. A massive video, and I'll leave a link to that at the top of this screen right now. As for tomorrow, we'll be covering the Europa Conference League quarter-final first leg, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on that video. And of course, don't forget to drop a like on this video if you haven't done so already to tell me how much you enjoyed these preview and predictions for this Europa League. Because so far in the Europa League, we've not done too bad. It's not quite as good as our Champions League predictions so far, but we are 90 out of 176 and 15 correct scores, following on from the last 16 second legs. But as always, we have got 4 massive ties to talk about, and I actually think 4 very difficult ties to talk about. I think a few people are looking at these fixtures and have already made their mind up as to what 4 teams are going to be progressing in this Europa League, but I actually think this is an incredibly hard group of ties to call. But we'll start off, as always, with the opening game, which is Bodo Glimt taking on Lazio. And look, Bodo Glimt, the absolute standout surprise package of this Europa League so far. They were the highest team to finish outside of the top 8. But if you actually look at the sides that are in these quarterfinals, Bodo Glimt are the only side who didn't finish in the top 8 in their actual playoffs sort of to get here, as it were. So the only side not from the top 8 that actually progressed to the quarterfinals. All the other sides are here. They beat their top 8 side, which was, of course, Olympiacos. They did lose the second leg, as we kind of predicted, but they did so well in that opening leg at home that it did not matter. A 4-2 win on aggregate from them. And also, since then, they have won every single game since. They've played their first 2 games in the Elite Serie since the last time we spoke about them. They've won their opening 2 games. They haven't conceded a single goal in those 2 games, and they top the Norwegian League to start off their new season. Lazio, on the other hand, had to rely on a late Romagnoli winner against Victoria Pilsen. And I say winner, on the night it was only an equaliser, but they only managed a 1-1 draw at home to Victoria Pilsen, which meant they won 3-2 on aggregate. And their actual form in Serie A recently hasn't been that great either. Ahead of the 1-1 draw in the second leg, they also drew 1-1 in the league. They then lost 5-0 away to Bologna, then drew again 1-1 at home to Torino, but were able to get an impressive away win at Atalanta this weekend, which has actually significantly bolstered their chances of qualifying for the Champions League through their domestic league once again. But there's a little bit of doubt over Lazio at the moment. They may have won the league phase, but they are starting to have a little bit of a dip. Maybe that victory over Atalanta means that they have turned their form around. However, they did lose a couple of key players in that match, with both Nuno Tavares and Guijo both picking up injuries and having to go off in that victory over Atalanta. Furthermore, Romagnoli, their goal-scoring hero from the last 16, he didn't play at the weekend at all and is currently listed as doubtful. And furthermore, again, Ravella, their midfielder, is going to be suspended for this match as well. Meanwhile, Bodo Glimt have no fresh injuries or suspensions coming into this first leg off the back of their 3-0 win at the weekend. Look, on paper, Lazio should still win this game. But there are so many things going in Bodo's favour at the moment. They've got the far superior form coming into this. They are also completely unbeaten at home in this Europa League so far. Meanwhile, Lazio have lost games away so far. So I actually expect this run of form to continue. And I think Bodo are going to at least take a draw from this first leg. And assuming that all 3 of Nuno Tavares, Guijo and Romagnoli are injured for Lazio and are not going to be available for this game, I think that actually makes Bodo Glimt favourites. We shall see. Lazio, like I say, on paper, they should be the favourites, but I'm going for Bodo Glimt's incredible run of form to continue in this competition, and I'm going for a 2-1 victory to them. Next up is the game that I care about most. It is Lyon taking on Manchester United. And yes, Manchester United post-match reactions will be returning for the Europa League, since it's really the only matches that really matter to Manchester United for the remainder of this season. As for this match itself, Lyon, of course, breezing past FCSB in the end. But it has to be noted that they did lose 4-2 in Ligue 1 a couple of weeks ago. But They then went on to beat Lille at the weekend, making multiple changes to their starting lineup with this fixture in mind. For Manchester United, it was a Bruno Fernandes hat-trick over Real Sociedad, which saw them get into this quarter-final. But since the international break, Manchester United have not scored and only picked up 1 point. A 1-0 defeat at Nottingham Forest before the 0-0 draw at the weekend in the not-so-Manchester derby, I think it has to be said, given how much effort was shown from either side. In terms of the team news, both sides are going to be missing players for this one. Fofana was already going to be missing for Lyon, but then Ernest Nuama picked up an ACL injury in the weekend's results, so he is definitely going to be missing for both legs. For Manchester United, the fitness concerns over Matthias de Ligt and Kobbie Mainoo continue. Will they make it? As it stands, it's unclear. But it looks like Harry Maguire is going to be okay. He did go off against City, but that looked more precautionary than an actual injury. Obviously, expect Lyon to make changes from their victory over the weekend against Lille with the likes of Ryan Cherki and Midi Katsuge coming back into the starting lineup after being rested. Although, those players that came in for them have definitely given the manager a question to ask. To be honest, I look at this fixture and I kind of feel the same way I did about the Manchester derby. I think the way Manchester United have defended over the last few weeks, they do things the right way. I don't actually think Lyon score in this match. It's just going to be a case of can Manchester United score themselves. And from what I've seen over the last couple of weeks, I'm not so confident Manchester United are going to score either. I think this game goes one or two ways. It's either going to be another really sort of cagey, boring 0-0, maybe a 1-0 either way, or one of these two sides is going to score early and the whole game is going to get blown wide open and you're going to see something like a 3-2 or a 4-2 or something like that. I'm certainly leaning towards the prior though, and like I say, I think the way United defended recently, I don't think Lyon score against Manchester United, but at the same time, I'm not convinced Manchester United's creativity is good enough to score against Lyon at the moment either. So I bottled it at the weekend. I'm not going to bottle it this time. I'm going for a 0-0 draw. Next up, it is Rangers taking on Bilbao. And for Rangers, it has been absolute non-stop drama. They, of course, lost the second leg at home to Fenerbahce 2-0, but then won the penalty shootout. Well done, Fred. Good old Fred missing the penalty for Fenerbahce. However, they then followed that up, did Rangers, with a 3-2 victory away to Celtic in the Old Firm derby, then winning 4-3 at Dundee in the Scottish League as well, but then they lost 2-0 at home to Hibs despite playing their full first team. They didn't rest anyone ahead of this game and they lost 2-0 at home to Hibernian this weekend. Absolute chaos in these matches with Rangers at the moment. For Bilbao, it's been anything but drama because after beating Roma 3-1 in the second leg to win that tie overall, they then have had a 1-0 victory over Sevilla, followed up by back-to-back 0-0 draws against Osasuna and Villarreal. So something's got to give here. Either the Rangers drama ends or the Bilbao drama begins. In terms of the team news, there are again missing players for both sides. Both both Suter and Diamonde are going to be suspended for Rangers. Meanwhile, Yuri Beracice and Aitor Paredes both went off injured for Bilbao in the game against Villarreal, and they'll be joining the centre-back Yeray in the injury room. So both sides missing regular starting lineup players for this match. For me, I just think this game comes down to how the sides approach this game. I really do. If Rangers play their ridiculous high line that we saw against Celtic and against Hibernian, they're going to get absolutely destroyed by the Williams brothers on the counter-attack. However, if they approach the game like they did against Fenerbahce, certainly in that away fixture where they were the side that sat back and looked to counter, I think we're going to see a much tighter game and potentially yet another 0-0 draw after the back-to-back 0-0 draws for Bilbao. I'm not convinced though. I think the way that Rangers have sort of approached these matches over the last couple of weeks, I can still see them being a little bit more expansive, especially given that they're at home and the fans will be looking to a response from the Hibernian result of the weekend, which I then think favours Bilbao to win this leg and then, of course, the second leg at home as well. For me, this is probably the most likely of the games where it's like, yes, Bilbao win both legs. So I'm going for a 2-0 victory to Bilbao. But we'll see. Rangers have proven themselves time and time again in this tournament so far. Could they do it one more time? And then finally, it is Tottenham taking on Eintracht Frankfurt, the two closest sides in terms of where they finished in the league. Fourth taking on fifth. And I think a lot of people are again going into this saying, well, Spurs will beat Frankfurt pretty comfortably. Spurs are a good team on their day, especially at home. Yada, 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 yada. Let me start this preview with this. Ajax are currently top of the Eredivisie right now in Holland. They are 34 points ahead of AZ Alkmaar. Over the 2 legs in the last 16, Frankfurt beat Ajax 6-2. Spurs only beat AZ 3-2. So Frankfurt have done a much better number over a much better Dutch team than what Spurs have. So for me, immediately, that tells me that Frankfurt are probably the side to beat in this fixture. And Spurs are going to have to step it up. Not only that, Spurs then lost 2-0 to Fulham, then lost 1-0 to Chelsea. And well, okay, they won at the weekend, but it was to relegated Southampton. How much does that really sort of indicate as to what they're going to do in this match? Frankfurt, on the other hand, won at Bochum, won at Stuttgart, but then lost to Werder Bremen at the weekend. Again, playing their full first team, and that's actually put a bit of a dent in their Champions League chances for next season. They still sit third in the Bundesliga, but that gap that we talked about yesterday is very, very narrow. And let's not forget, like I just said, they're third in the Bundesliga. Spurs are 14th in the Premier League table at the moment. They're not doing that great. The issue is, it's Frankfurt that are the side that are full of injuries. They have got a lot of regular squad team players. Not necessarily first team players, but a lot of their first team squad are injured. The most notable absentees are Nauf, the winger, and of course their goalkeeper, Kevin Trapp, who is a massive loss for them. And I do think that without that full squad depth, it is going to be a little bit harder against a Spurs side that now does have the vast majority of their players back. Their only real major absentee remains Kulusevski. The last time these two sides met, I've not actually spoken about head-to-head on any of these teams because there hasn't been head-to-head between these two teams in recent years. But these two actually have. They last met in 2022 in the Champions League group stage. It was a 0-0 draw in Germany. It was a 3-2 win for Spurs in London. I am very, very hesitant as to where to go with this one, but even I still think that with Frankfurt's injury problems and with Spurs' very good home record in Europe this season, I still think Spurs win this leg. I am nowhere near convinced, though, that even they win this leg, but certainly I'm not convinced they're going to win this tie. I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Tottenham, but watch this space. If Frankfurt turn up, they've got some good young players. I think they could definitely get a result against Spurs here. But that'll do it for today. As always, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me know anything you think I've missed regarding any of these matches. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I'll be back tomorrow morning with my Europa Conference League predictions, so I'll see you there.